Hi, I'm Ling and I do a lot of art and photography. Recently, I've been making a collection of paintings and homewares that are inspired by my Chinese heritage, and I found it so comforting to make things that feel like home. I'd love to share a few projects that I've been working on, which include homewares like pottery and candles, and this week I'll also be starting a new oil painting. It's a really exciting one because it's my first painting commission. I have done drawings for people over the last few years, but I only started painting a few months ago, and it's honestly so nice to know that people have been interested in the style I've been working on. I really didn't expect such a nice response to my very first painting. The original has sold, and a few people have asked for huge prints of it. I live in Sydney and I might be sending one all the way to the Netherlands, which is absolutely wild to me. So I'll leave a link below in case you want to check out the prints too. And if everything goes well with this artwork, I will also try to make this one available. But we'll get started and see how it turns out first. So the person who arranged this commission really wants to fill their entire dining room, and I've organized a custom linen canvas that's over 1 meter tall. It's going to be huge, and I already love the idea because they want me to paint a giant bottle of Lao Gan Ma, the beloved crispy chili oil. And I think before we can start this work, we actually need to plan just by talking about food. I don't speak Cantonese fluently, but I can get by in family conversations at home. One phrase that we use every single day is "sik fan la," when food is ready and it's time to eat. I love the fact that someone has ordered a huge painting of Lao Gan Ma because food is such an important part of daily life and is really like its own love language. It's not common for someone to say the words "I love you" in my family home. In fact, I don't think I've ever heard my grandparents or my mum say that directly, but they will always say "have you eaten?" and they'll rush to cut up fruit when you come home. It feels affectionate and casual now, but the question "have you eaten" is a genuine one. It comes from a time when food was so scarce during intense famine and rationing, and I feel like it still carries so much weight. About a year ago, Jace and I were on a ferry from Guangzhou to Hong Kong when we asked my gongong, or my grandfather, more about my family there. He ended up telling us about relatives who had desperately swum from southern China to Hong Kong, just hoping to find some food. There are so many stories like this that I heard while growing up, and others that they've only really started talking about more recently. And to be honest, I've never felt like they're my stories to share. But they've also shaped how I view things, not out of guilt, but maybe out of an extreme appreciation for what I'm fortunate enough to have. I think there's also just so much comfort in any food that feels so familiar and instantly reminds you of home cooking. So if my whole purpose for this artwork is just to bring that level of coziness and affection into someone else's place, I feel like it's really one of the best things that I can give. The person who ordered this artwork is named Jade, and she wants a painting to fit a specific wall in her apartment. The canvas is being made to size and will probably take a week or two to arrive. So while I'm waiting for it, I've started to plan the design itself. Jade showed me these Peranakan tiles that she found in Singapore, where her family is from, and I absolutely love them. They're already hanging up on another wall in her living room, so I started thinking about color palettes that could go with them. I'm feeling really inspired by some old paintings and silk screens, and even looked closer at this design on my skirt, which is from a beautiful brand called KILN. There are a few different ways that we could position the Lao Gan Ma bottle, and I wondered if there should be a bench and a wall behind it, potentially with tiles in the painting too. I've started looking for some tiles that could be unique to the artwork, but also complement the ones that she has hanging up on the walls. I found these deep green tiles that I really like, and I'm starting to mock up a more simplified version. This painting is not meant to be serious, and I'm not going to do it in a realistic style. I kind of like the idea of creating a more flattened design overall, and maybe it could be like an Asian version of the Campbell's soup can. I started taking inspiration from a print that I have in my apartment too. This is a huge print of The Kiss by KILN. I love how oversized the figures are and how ornamental it is. I also came across a Korean style of portrait painting, and I really love the symmetry, the colors, and the backgrounds. I'm just looking through a lot of different styles while I think about this layout. The bottle of Lao Gan Ma could probably also have a really exaggerated, prominent shape, and I'll just need to figure out the proportions when I see the final canvas. I remember when I first started looking into easels, I was taking note of the height, but I didn't think that I'd need anything so big right away, and I'm honestly so excited to create something at such a large scale. The other thing is that materials for oil painting can really add up at this size. I'm painting on a natural primed linen, which I think is worth it because I love the texture and I really want it to be part of the artwork. But obviously at this size it has turned into a lot of fabric. I'm also sourcing the frames early on because I really don't want anyone to have to worry about framing if they commission a painting or buy an original. But it's sustainably sourced Australian timber, and at this size also does add up to be quite an investment. So knowing that someone is pre-ordering an artwork really makes something like this possible, and I'm so excited for the chance to do it. I do want the linen to show through in some sections, so I'm going to start by blocking them out and then we can get to painting. There are going to be a lot of repeated shapes in this painting, so I decided to create a very rough stencil for the tiles, and I'm going to keep some of the plain linen peeking through the gaps. Everything up until now has taken a lot longer than I expected, and I'm running a bit behind schedule for this painting. I switched to using a liquid gel, which is a painting medium that should dry a bit faster than the linseed oil I was using before, but I still really underestimated how much time I would need. Jace told me not to rush because it could change my style, which is the reason that Jade ordered a painting from me in the first place. So I tried to be really patient with it, even though all I could think about was the deadline. To speed up the process a bit, I decided to use a projector for the outline of the portrait, and that did save some time, but there's still a lot of detail needed because there's a full portrait on the label. When the canvas arrived, I thought it was so unbelievably big, but now that I'm painting the label, I'm actually really glad that it's this size. The portrait would be so difficult if the painting was small, and I'm finding it really fun to recreate it on this scale. The paint is still drying, but this is basically the finished piece, and I really can't believe that I was actually able to do this. It sounded like such a huge idea when I first started, and especially when I first opened the canvas and saw how big the work was going to be, I really was having trouble imagining exactly how it would come together, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. This is my very first painting commission, and it's actually the second oil painting that I've ever done. I shared a video about how I recently woke up feeling like an artist, even though I only started painting a few weeks before. A huge part of that feeling came from someone commissioning a painting, because it meant that they trusted my style and vision, even before I've had many chances to show it. I mentioned that while this painting might not be something I would have thought about doing on my own, the whole thing has kind of become a collaboration with so many different ideas, and I think that's a lot better. I've loved painting Lao Gan Ma so much, and now that I've finished it, I think it could actually go down a whole path. There are so many other foods and drinks that feel very nostalgic, and I'm wondering if I should stop here or if I just keep going and start to paint a giant Yakult or Ceylon tea next. In the meantime, I have been making a lot of other things that are very inspired by my own childhood. A few weeks ago, I surprised my popo with a drawing of her favorite photo from that time. I shared another video recently about how life is art, and I feel like all of these creations slowly fit into the bigger story. I've also been making a collection of homewares with my friend Sarah, which is all inspired by my Chinese and her Korean roots. One of the biggest motivations behind what we're making is learning more about our own lineage through handmade crafts. Food is just one way to connect and share, but there are also so many traditions and other sources of inspiration. I've been making fragrances for our homewares brand for quite a few months, but I wasn't able to share anything I made with Sarah for a long time because we currently live in different countries. But when she was able to visit Australia, it was so interesting to see the scents that felt familiar and homey to her right away.
Stop it. These are final V's? Oh.
Happy to change anything, but that's the first test.
This is so nice. What the?
I think the black tea is just a really clean scent.
Yeah. It's also very familiar. I have a jasmine, well, I had a jasmine plant outside that grew on our vines, and every time it bloomed, like, it was very strong, but I was like out there.
Okay.
And what Leo did was he picked them, the flowers, and he oven roasted them so all the moisture went away, and he put it in his black or green tea.
Yeah.
And it's like our favorite
It's
tea.
the perfect combo.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been done for centuries because it's just so good.
Yeah.
Like, it's just classic.
But it's so, like, it's natural. Like, they grow like crazy.
Yeah.
And you could
and
just...
so fragrant.
Yeah.
I delivered the painting to Jade last night, and it was so great to see just how much she loved the final artwork too. It looked perfect in her space, and I'm so happy that I got the chance to make it. If you've watched this video, thank you so much for spending time here. It would be great if you could subscribe to this channel for more art, but in the meantime, I hope it's just been a cozy place to unwind.